Once upon a time, there was a teacher, homeschool teacher. Her name was Miss Apple. Miss Apple, like the fruit, like your favorite teacher's fruit. Miss Apple had three children, a son and two daughters. They were 9, 8, and 7. Miss Apple was the best as doing homework with them and teaching them not just finishing homework, but like the process of learning was so clear and powerful for Miss Apple. Miss Apple had a large dining room. In that dining room, they had a large table, rectangular table, and there was a window with three separations. The window was medium size, but still quite large. And Miss Apple had organized their classes, the three children's classes, and they all had different levels of education 7, 8, and 9 year olds. So, three grades in one session. Miss Apple would use the window as the board, this classroom's board, and she would write on the board with markers, and the students would have their notebooks and books, and their markers. Blue, green, and red. Blue, green, and red for the 9 year old, the 8 year old, and the 7 year old. So Miss Apple had the window assigned a division for each student 1, 2, and 3. This window represented the visualizer, the explanatory visualizers of knowledge. So Miss Apple would use the first blue section of the window for the 9 year old, the second section of the window for the 8 year old, and the third section of the window for the 7 year olds. Learning process. That it was gorgeous and beautiful and so orchestrated that the three students would just focus on their section of the window 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3, 9, 8, and 7. And they would learn, like those students would learn. And Miss Apple, since she was a young woman, she had all this charisma and empathy and enjoyment in learning and explaining and just delivering knowledge in a very creative manner. And students would listen to their own recordings of the textbooks that they needed to rehearse for the class one day in advance. So on their iPads, they would record their own voice narrating the textbook, the piece of information, and then they would listen to that 9 times, and then they would go to bed. Well, of course, brush their teeth, have dinner, brush teeth, and go to bed. But for the next day, their long-term memory would really absorb that audio that they had themselves recorded. And so Miss Apple, when she would give the lesson for each student, which, like I said, it was a different class for each student because they represented ages 9, 8, and 7. But the point is that knowledge was so enlarged. Like it wasn't just numbers or letters. It was like the full on movie experience of receiving knowledge as if it was a movie because of this wonderful strategy that Miss Capel had developed. And so knowledge in this mini school but powerful school was very meaningful and very enlarged and very like a big screen. It was gigantic.